This is the Washington Capitals, and last season, this team was the walking definition of an anomaly. A crazy multi-game web on the second last day of the regular season eventually led to them burying an empty netter and becoming the first team ever to make the playoffs with a minus 37 goal differential. Being a complete outlier in every sense of the word made for a great Cinderella story. But then, reality set in when they got swept by the Rangers, with Ovi registering 0 points. The numbers suggested that the Caps were a fraudulent playoff team, and a quick 4-and-out ended up proving it right. But a quick retool in the summer, and out of nowhere, the Washington Capitals became the NHL's best team. So what exactly changed? Are they just riding a super hot goaltender and a hot shooting percentage, or is this team truly a Stanley Cup contender? Well, let's take a look. The Washington Capitals have been one of the NHL's biggest surprises this season. From a resurging Alexander Ovechkin to a Vezina-caliber goaltender, the Caps have become a wagon. And where it all starts is with their retool in the summer. They want to get faster and younger, so they brought in key pieces like Jacob Chychrun, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Mangiapane, Matt Roy, and most importantly, goaltender Logan Thompson. These moves injected a breath of fresh air into the lineup that has allowed them to play a far more fast-paced and in-your-face style of game that is required to have success in the modern NHL. That all starts off the rush where their personnel allows them to attack with width and pace. If they catch you holding the line on them, they have the speed and size to drive directly north and make a play to the net. Now, you'll notice a lot when watching Washington regroup or break out of the zone how often they're trying to stretch out their opponent. Here against Nashville, it's 2 passes and then it's in the back of the net. Now, once the Washington defender comes out from behind the net, you got 4 Washington Capitals in frame and 4 Nashville Predators in frame. And in this instance, Nashville is relatively aggressive with their gap, with all 4 players being inside the blue line. So what does Washington do? They send their fastest skater in Ethan Frank to the far blue line. Now, teams tend to use this strategy to get aggressive forechecks to back off anyways. As the player blows the zone, a defenseman has to retreat to cover his man, and that opens up space for plays to be made underneath and in the middle of the ice. This was used a lot in last year's playoffs because aggression was the name of the game for most teams. So, with Nashville pressing, Ethan Frank isn't even in frame here, but he's gathering speed and attacking the far blue line to get the lefty and Brady Shea to back up. That has now opened up space in the middle of the ice for a potential bank pass or soft chip to the middle. Or, of course, you can go for the stretch pass to Ethan Frank, which is exactly what they do, and it ends up in a goal. Frank won the AHL fastest skater last season, clocking in at 12.915 seconds. So why not maximize the strength of your roster with those types of plays? The beauty of this is that when teams start to anticipate the stretch, they can over-collapse to avoid getting burned off the rush. So when the play inevitably moves down low with possession, there's space at the points for Washington to exploit. And when you can expose teams by moving north quickly, that opens up space to make lateral plays. Retreat and given the blue line like Buffalo does here, they will make an east-west play and use the gap advantage given to make you pay. This change in play style has completely revitalized Ovechkin's game. Being 39 years old means that speed just isn't his strong suit anymore, but it doesn't have to be. Take this play here. Always going to be last on the back check. That's important for later, but Washington's McMichael does a strong job as the F3 slashing across to take away that immediate space. That's going to force an east-west pass from Detroit, but Strome is going to get a little cheeky toe on it. So as the puck is tipped, Chychrun steps up, Caps recover, and Connor McMichael reloads through the middle with speed. But so does Ovi. Now, this 3-on-3 becomes a threat as soon as McMichael identifies that he can target the forward Tyler Mott on the outside. The speed of McMichael forces the Detroit D to take the angle in case he does get burned wide, and when the space closes up, the stop-up for McMichael creates a money look. The D-man in Chychrun does a great job at jumping up in the play. It's a 2-on-1, and Ovi is finishing that all day. Without the speed of McMichael to force Detroit to overplay this angle, as well as Chychrun being mobile and aware enough as a D to jump up in the play, the assignments for Detroit likely sort itself out, and Ovi probably doesn't get left wide open. Ovi is chasing the goal record because he's one of the most intelligent shooters of all time. He's not blowing by anyone with speed anymore. He knows that. But as Washington's speed going north drives defenses back, he can find these soft areas off the rush as Washington pulls up to make a lateral play. The result makes a 39-year-old able to thrive in a game that is built off of youth and speed. Then you have Washington's forecheck. Because of this ability to play with pace, they get on defenses very quickly to force a turnover and high danger chance. Here, Washington has a potential rush chance, but instead of making a risky offensive play, they dump it in and say, let's go to work. Right away, there's layers. Tom Wilson, one of the league's best hitters and toughest players, breathing down the neck of the Sabres D. What happens? He rushes a play up the boards to advance the puck, and before the next Sabre even touches the puck, there's a 6'4" Dubois right in his face, ready to give pressure. He forced a turnover, makes a skilled and patient play into the middle, and it eventually leads to a goal for Washington. Again, having a great forecheck isn't always about destroying guys. It's about reading the play, setting the necessary traps, and having the speed to get to your spot on time. Here, Washington is going to create a turnover without even laying a hit. Dubois is going to pressure the strong side and force the Penguins D to go for a hard rim. McMichael's job here as the F2 is to read the play and be on time and in the right spot. Once all the traps are set, turnover comes and it's in the back of the net. However, the beauty of Washington this year is that they can play a heavy style of game also. Here, this play once again starts with a stretch pass to Tom Wilson. He's going to just completely outmuscle his man while he takes a head scan to see where his options are. Then the layers come in to support. It forces Minnesota to rush the play up the boards, change of possession, and we have yet another greasy goal from Washington. Now, of course, there's some concern of this Caps team's legitimacy. They hold the highest shooting percentage in the league, and at times, they struggle when it comes to maintaining possession. Coach Spencer Carberry highlighted this at the beginning of the month, saying that they simply spend too much time checking because they don't have the puck. So using Sport Contracts analytics, I decided to compare their offensive zone time to the league's worst 3 offensive teams in Nashville, Anaheim, and San Jose. And only Anaheim had less O-zone time of possession than Washington. The Caps, for a top offensive team, don't get a lot of zone time, but their execution off the rush and on the forecheck is enough to keep them winning. That and Logan Thompson. The Team Canada snub has been lights out this year. A 21-2-3 record with one of the league's best goals against average and save percentage. Rob Gearson, who's a former pro goalie and current goalie coach, helped me evaluate his style. One thing that sticks out in particular is his positioning. Thompson is a goalie who stays deep in his crease so that he doesn't have to move too much. He doesn't try to take extra depth very often. He gets on his angle, waits, and then his save selection is quiet and simple. Now, you'll usually see some goalies get out to the top of the blue paint in their crease to make the save like Vasilevsky does here. But Thompson usually opts to stay deeper in his crease. That's advantageous in a situation like this, where Thompson stops Crosby's signature chop tip. Crosby doesn't get all of it, but for years, this play has beat goalies because they challenge the shooter and come out to the top of the blue, which opens up that angle on the short side. Thompson's depth makes it so that the tip has to be absolutely perfect, and he stops that and the rebounds to boot. The style as a whole is very similar to how Henrik Lundqvist used to play. The evolution is that we're now seeing some goalies like Thompson and Hellebuck play deeper to limit any unnecessary movement when making a save. Staying efficient for goalies is the name of the game. Of course, there are pros and cons. If a shooter gets in tight, this deep style gives shooters a lot of net to work with. However, it doesn't seem to be harming Thompson too much when it comes to this season. All these factors have combined to create one of the NHL's best teams so far. And after a fluky last season, the Caps went to the drawing board and completely revamped their team. With speed, size, goaltending, and a whole lot of efficient scoring, they've become a problem for the rest of the league. And while the chase for greatness continues, this Caps team has their eyes on a bigger prize come playoffs.